You don't have a business, you have what I call a prison. Those things will never get better if they're not being tracked every single week, right? The only person who are natural salesmen are the people you don't want in your business. Closers are not born, they are trained. You can manage it, and if you can manage it, you can improve it. How is your business doing? Could you tell me? Could you give me a rating? Could you tell me if it's an A+ or a D- or anything in between? Do you have that pulse on your business? If not, this video is for you. My name is Josh Ponton. I'm the CEO of Patient Stream, and over the last few years, we have worked with hundreds of different wellness businesses and multiple of them doing 7 figures plus. And we've been taking a world tour, going inside of these businesses, spending full weeks assessing, interviewing the staff, secret shopping, doing consulting days with the owners. And there has been so many valuable things that I have been able to gather from that I want to share with you. And one of the most important ones is being able to have a clear assessment of your business. Almost a decade ago, I started a gym and scaled it with the help of a mentor, Alex Ramosi. You've probably heard the name. And there was one lesson that I learned in the very beginning that just helped me always have a pulse of my business. And that's something that I call the 5 core functions. And so those 5 core functions, we're not going to look at all 3 today. Today, I'm going to walk you through client acquisition. But of those 5 core functions, you're looking at lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, and ascension. And on these first 3 here, these first 3 make up something called client acquisition. And that's probably one of the things that if you're on YouTube, you're looking at business content, you're probably wondering, how can you get better at bringing in more clients? And if that's something that you want to know, we're going to assess that here today with a few key questions that will help you figure out what is the main bottleneck in each one of these areas, because that's how this functions work. And that's why it's so beautiful, because this is, let me just give you an overview. So what will happen is lead generation is how good are you at producing leads? Lead nurture is going to be what happens with the leads and how can you get them to actually come into the facility. Sales is when they come into your facility, how good are you at converting them? Fulfillment is going to be retention. Fulfillment is how long can you actually keep someone in your business? And ascension is going to be your upsell value, right? When you have someone coming in for sculpting, can you upsell them to a recovery service? If you have someone doing medical weight loss, can you add on sculpting, right? That's going to be your upsell. And so how this breaks down is these first 3 deal with something called client acquisition. These bottom 2 deal with what we call lifetime value. 2 very important things that you need to understand how is it going in your business. And because what happens is you get more leads, it usually breaks the lead nurture component. You get more leads that actually show up, it breaks the sales function. You start signing a bunch of people up, you realize you got a leaky bucket, you're losing people left and right, or you start realizing that your clients aren't worth that much to your business and you have a really hard time getting upsells. And so we're gonna go through this, and I wanna look at client acquisition and walk you through an assessment. So lead generation, the first question I like to ask is going to be, what does it currently look like? Describe it to me. How do you get your leads? Are you just getting them through word of mouth and referrals? Right? If so, that could be your bottleneck right now. Are you getting them just primarily through paid marketing? Is that where all of your leads come from? Is Facebook just feeding your business all the time? What does that happen? Who owns this function? One of the most important questions you need to ask in your business is who owns it? Because if we get through this entire list and your name is on the who owns it function, right, you're handcuffed to it, and we have to start giving ownership of certain functions to certain key players in your business. What sources do the leads come from, right? That could be email, it could be referrals, it could be word of mouth, organic, Google, Facebook, Meta, right? All those different things there. How are the leads tracked and managed, right? So cool, maybe you're getting leads, but could you tell me exactly how many leads you got yesterday? Could you tell me how many leads you got over the last 7.5 days if you could run a metric that way, right? So you want to know, are they actually being tracked and how are they being managed? And when I say managed, that means that where do they go? Do they go to a CRM? Are they just going to a spreadsheet, right? Are they just going to a Google form, right? You want to know exactly how are you actually managing and holding these leads as well. And so you should be able to answer these questions, right? Now, if you can't answer these questions, if you don't know what does lead generation currently look like, if you don't know who owns the function, if you don't know what sources you're actually getting leads from, and if you have no way of tracking or managing it, then I'm gonna tell you right now, you don't even have a lead generation system. And so that's for another video. I will talk to you about how to put one in place, but this is where we wanna look at of what is the main bottleneck here, right? And let me give you some examples. Maybe you have an agency that's owning this function. And because you have an agency owning this function and that's the only thing that's happening, then the source of leads might just be coming from Meta, for example. So 90% of your lead flow comes straight from Meta, and they might be getting tracked in a CRM. So at least you're good there. So when I look at that situation, the bottleneck I look at is that I love it. I love that you're doing paid ads. I love that you're crushing it with that and you're getting leads from it. But what would happen if tomorrow Facebook shut you down? What would happen if your ad account got banned for a couple of weeks? Does that mean that all of your lead flow just dies? And if so, that's your bottleneck. It does not mean that you stop doing it, right? Because you want to keep that lead flow going. But what other low-hanging fruit areas can you start to get another source of leads from, right? Do you have, because you're running Facebook ads and maybe you've been running Facebook ads for a lot of time, you have 2,000 leads in your database, in your CRM, then maybe that's where we start looking at reactivation drips, right? Are you emailing those leads? Are you texting those leads, right? Because now you can get those leads to come in, and yes, you already own them, but it's just another way that you can reactivate them and turn them into new, fresh leads. So now you have Facebook leads coming in every day, and now you have old leads getting reactivated, right? Or we can look at adding in referrals, right? Can you teach your team a referral system to make it consistent? So then every single week you also have leads coming through from that. And now you have taken that thing that was a bottleneck and turned it into something where now you have 3 different sources of lead flow, which is probably gonna lead us to the next thing, which is lead nurture. And so again, lead nurture. First thing I always ask the owners, what does it look like? I just want you to describe it, right? Do you even know what lead nurture is, right? Do you know the purpose of lead nurture, right? How would you describe lead nurture actually functioning in your business? Again, who owns the function? This one is so critical, right? Who owns the function? If you have an agency that does the done for you nurture system for you, you still need someone in your business that owns it, because it doesn't just stop there. You can't just completely outsource it. You could outsource most of it, but there are still things that should be happening in-house, like your confirmation process, right? Looking at that lead, looking at the notes, moving that over to the consult process. That's so important. And so you want to know who owns the success of that function. What systems are in place for contacting and following up with leads? This is so important. When we look at lead nurture, we'll break it down in other videos, so I won't get too tactical there about what a good lead nurture system looks like, but there has to be a system in place for how fast do the leads get contacted? How often do they get contacted? How do they get followed up with when they say, hey, call me back later, right? Is there a way to track that? And is there a system there? And brings me to the next part here, which is going to be, how are booking and show percentage tracked? This is so huge, because the ultimate result that you want from lead nurture is you want a solid booking percentage, which means that those leads actually get booked for consults, and you want those leads to actually show up and come in the door. And now I promise you, those things will never get better if they're not being tracked every single week, right? Every single week, you should be looking at last week of what was our booking percentage in our lead flow. We had 100 leads, 40 booked, 40% booking percentage. How can we increase that, right? Show percentage, right? Of those 40 leads that were booked, how many of them actually showed up? Okay, cool, 20 showed up, 50%. Right? And so you want to know those metrics, because then we can start working on ways to identify what is the bottleneck here. Okay, so a couple things that could be happening. Right? Maybe first off, you have no one that owns the function. You generate leads, but lead nurture is an afterthought, right? It's just something where you're just wondering why these leads aren't coming in, or these leads suck. Or maybe enough of them do come into where you're still profitable, but how much more are you leaving on the table because no one's owning the result of increasing your booking and your show percentage? That's a bottleneck. We need to fix that. We need to apply ownership. We either need to outsource some of lead nurture, but still have someone, whether that's you or a manager or whoever else, that have eyes on it, and they're making sure that it's accomplishing the result that it's supposed to. Now, the next thing that can happen is maybe you have a lot of leads coming in, but you have a very low booking percentage. If you're having that happen, then there's 2 places that we want to look at: volume of outreaches and speed of lead, right? How fast are we reaching out to those leads, and how many calls are we making? That's the first place. The second place you can do is you can get with your agency if they're running your ads, or if you're running your own ads, we need to look at the funnel itself, right? What is the process that these leads, when they come in, are walking through on the funnel? Because we can use the funnel to increase that booking percentage. And then so now the other third bottleneck that's common is that, cool, we're having a good percentage of our leads actually book appointments, but we are not having people walk through the door. There are no showing appointments, okay? And so if that's happening, then we need to look at what I call scripting, right? We need to look at, okay, cool, we got them booked, so we know we're solid there, but what are we actually saying when they get on the phone, right? Are we collecting deposits? Are we getting card on files? Are we actually tying down that appointment? Right? What are we saying on the phones? We need to look at the script. We need to improve that. And then we need to improve what I call a confirmation process. So after you do get them booked, what happens 24 hours beforehand? How are we confirming the appointment? Are we sending a video message? Are we asking them, hey, what water do you want when you come in? Do you want a room temperature or cold, right? Are we doing things that can nurture that person and increase the show percentage? And so from this, we can see there's a lot of different avenues, but if we understand these questions, we can then now figure out what is the bottleneck? What do you need to work on right now when it comes to your lead nurture system? And then the last component of client acquisition is going to be sales. Again, like always, first question I would ask you, what does sales look like, right? I want to see the picture, right? I want you to describe it. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your team, right? What's currently happening in your sales process? What does it look like? Again, who owns it, right? Yes, multiple people may be doing sales, but who owns the result? If you cannot tell, there's a trend here. Every single process in your business should have an owner. You could have multiple owners. You can have one person owning multiple functions, but there needs to be a name tacked onto a function because there needs to be that type of accountability or else it will never get better. What resources and tools are in place for improving sales? Right? This is something that I see missing a lot. How do you train your staff? I hear a lot, my staff can't sell, but I don't see a lot of the time a system in place for training and developing people that can sell. Because I'm telling you right now, the only person who are natural salesmen are the people you don't want in your business. So those are the car salesmen, right? The people that have the gift or gab and they're just talking and they can pitch anything, right? They can sell ice to an Eskimo. You do not want that person selling in your wellness business. You want someone that has a process, that has clear training. They understand how to listen, how to dig deep, right? And that's the type of closer you want. But those closers are not born, they are trained, okay? And so you wanna make sure we have those tools and resources in place. Number 4 here is how is close percentage? That's a big thing. I'm looking at close percentage. And then the second thing that's really big that we're tracking, we're looking at is average front-end cash collected. And so just to clarify what that means is that's how much money did the person pay at point of sale, not contract value, but how much cash was collected upon that first time visit. Right? These two things are really important because you could have a super high close percentage, but you could be collecting very low, right? And where we want to see, if you're running paid marketing, I like people to be collecting above $1,000, right? If you're a wellness business and you have sculpting, you have medical weight loss, I'm telling you right now, if you sell packages, another video for another day, just like, you know, a couple businesses we work with, you could be somewhere around $4,000 plus on average revenue collected. And so when we look at this, we're looking at what are the bottlenecks, right? Again, usually a big bottleneck is there's no true owner, right? There's no one that's owning the percentage, owning how much cash is collected, and owning the result. That doesn't mean that they're doing it, but it means that they own the responsibility of it. Other big bottleneck, if we kind of, you know, I'm talking to you about training your team and you feel like that's you're the person that's constantly saying that your team can't sell, but you don't have those resources for them, then that's a bottleneck, right? How can you invest in your team, right? If you're really good at sales, can you document your process? Can you build out a playbook? Can you record yourself going through a consult? Can you add in role plays for your team, right? How can you give them resources to help develop them? And then down here, you need a tracking system, right? We give our clients something called a sales KPI sheet, a business intelligence sheet, and it tracks everything that they need to track, right? On a daily basis. And then now we can look at it from yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, down to where we at on close percentage, where we at on average revenue per cash collected, right? Show percentage, all those good things there, but you need a system and a tracking system in place. If you do not have this, I recommend starting there first, okay? Because if you start there first with the data, you can manage it, and if you can manage it, you can improve it. So those are the assessments that I would walk you through if I was in front of you and we were doing a day of consulting. That is how we assess client acquisition. I hope you got some value from that. I promise you, if you go back, rewind this video, pause it at each question, answer each question, and try and identify your bottleneck, you're gonna have a good nugget that you can take to improve your business tomorrow. So do me a favor, put it in action, right? Action matters. And so if you want to keep learning, if you want content like this, right, where we're not holding back, I'm showing you everything that we're doing with the people that we're actually going into their locations and consulting, then I just have one favor for you, is please subscribe, comment, let me know what type of questions you want answered, what do you want help with, what problems are in your business, let me know, so that way I know you're there and I will continue to make this. Again, guys, appreciate you for watching. Go take action. I'll see you on the next one.